Hello everyone, welcome back to Old Dad's Modeling Mess. And in today's video, I bring you the winner of my third You Pick My Next Build series. Of course, stolen from Andy. Thank you, sir. And it is the PZ4 by TriStar. Now, if you guys have not seen my little update video last week that I put out, I had some major issues with this. And yeah, it was not fun. But I'm able to work through it and get most of it taken care of, I believe. As always, I start off with the hull, and I have to be honest with you. Somebody in one of my earlier videos had mentioned something about putting the bulkheads in first. And whoever that was, thank you, because yes, that really worked good for this. These TriStar kits, they have like a little bitty lip, but the connection joints are like on 45-degree angles. So they're okay-ish, maybe for some people. For me, I'm not a fan of those type of joints where I like either the ones that butt up against each other or the overlapping joints, because then you know you've got it. For me, like when I was working on the 38T, I didn't notice it as much because it was warped, and it was another TriStar kit as well. So I knew that there was going to be issues there. But on this one here, as you see, I'm still holding that side, because if you let go of it and stuff like that, with those joints being 45, they kind of slip a little bit. I am able to get it on and everything, but I'm still, I'm not a fan of those types of joints. You know, it's kind of like with a lot of the other kits like Dragon and them, where they just have like a little outline where the part's supposed to go instead of a hole for the pin, you know, connection type things. I really don't like these. They really seem to give me some issues. I'm sure that's just user issues, you know, with me being me, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of them. But the whole, it's going together, and I don't know it yet, but there's quite a few surprises as I start moving forward here. The front isn't quite lining up right and stuff. It's just, in all honesty, it's just fitment issues. And I say all of this with, you know, a big caveat here. This kit's over 40 years old, from what I understand, or around 40 years old. So, you know, there's going to be some sort of issues with a kit that's this damn old. They're just going to be. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. But when I did the unboxing video, you know, from the Hulk and the what's in the box, I wasn't expecting it, because, you know, it looked straight and, you know, whatever. I knew it with the 38T, because yeah, that the bottom of the hull there was just completely bowed in all sorts of weird ways. But anyway, getting back to the build here, as you see, this is just me trying to hold the parts in the correct place, and yeah, it's like that, because like I said, it's, you know, trying to make sure everything lines up, stays in place, there isn't no gaps, because sometimes you will get a gap back there in the back along the bottom. So here you see I'm putting the rear plate on, and it's got the little like tabs, but it still doesn't quite fit just right. I don't know if it's shrinkage, whatever, but it goes in there and everything and all that. So now it's time to do the front plate. And one of the issues I had that I tried to avoid here on this front plate was on the 38T, there was a pretty good gap between the front plate and the top of the hull. So this time I'm like, okay, well, to make sure that I don't run into that issue, I'm going to put the top of the hull, just set it on there, get it set up where it's supposed to go, and not be silly and leave stuff there that's gonna, create even bigger gaps or whatever. But I'm gonna put the top of the hull on and make sure that the front plate there is in the correct spot. That way there, I don't have that issue. Well, yeah, we'll get to that here in a minute. The thought was there. We'll just put it that way. As you can see, it looks fine, but even there, you can still the side that was closest to me in the view there when I had the top of the hull on, there was still a little bit of a gap. But on a good note, it was not quite as bad as the one on the 38T. So I will give it that. That did work out. Now, and I'm sure I'll say this again later on in the video, I did run into some issues, but what I did do was I went online and I looked in forums and I looked in Reddit and stuff like that, and I just did TriStar PZ4 builds, a search on Bing and stuff like that. See, now you can see that gap a lot more prominent there, and the top was actually in its spot. So yeah, and this here is the part where after I got it going, I actually went and I started looking and online, that is, and what it was like here you couldn't get if you lined up the bottom where it was supposed to go, you couldn't get the top in, and then if you got the top in, the bottom wouldn't go in. And so when I looked everything up online, it was like that. Every build that I seen, and I seen quite a few, and these were guys that, they had every photo etch set there was, and these guys were builders in the night shift level of builders. They had fitment issues as well. They had where they filled the gaps in. They actually had to add styrene and stuff like that. Here, as I get the front going, and this is after I did this part is when I looked. But yeah, this took quite a bit here to get this correct. Yeah, there was clamps that came in and stuff like that. I tried everything to get it to go in and work right. And it took some clamps and some me holding it in weird funky ways and all sorts of stuff like that to get going. So yeah, it was different, and it really was just a prelude to the bigger issues that I had. As you can see, that gap's pretty big right there. So yeah, I will throw a song on real quick while you guys watch me bumble through all of this, and I'll check back with you here in just a second. Okay, enough suspense. Here is the one cool thing, I guess, that happened with this. After I forced everything to go where it's supposed to go, uh, almost every build that I seen down there at the bottom where uh, the side plate there meets the fender, everybody's had to add some styrene down there, either some little thin strips or a little round rod, but somebody's always had an issue with that, and for some dumb luck, I didn't have that issue, but I did have issues they didn't have. Uh, I don't know it yet, but this right here is the beginning of a mistake that I make, and with the fitment issues, it just absolutely, completely makes everything immensely worse. I don't think it's as much as a problem with putting the rear plate there on. It's what I do here shortly. Um, Actually, I think putting these, because I got the rear plate on now, and I'm getting ready to put the hatches or the covers, whatever you want to call them, on. I think those actually helped or made it worse more than putting the rear plate here on. Because the issue I have is I put the rear part of the fenders on, and that really screwed me when it come to putting the vents in. Now, putting these covers here on, I know you can't really see it because I'm a goober here, but fitment issues. The hinges don't line up with the hinges that are on the kit. Then the gaps are way off. They're not symmetrical all the way around. It's And the only reason why I say that these here probably hurt me more putting these on than the rear plate is with when I get into the vents here, is because I probably could have had a little more of a way to move the vents around and stuff if I had left the hatches off, if that makes sense. Now, these two hatches are really bad because I set them in there and I'm trying to test fit them before I glue them in, and they are absolutely way off. And the first hatch that I put in, to get the next one in here and the other one that goes onto it, I have to squish them basically together. See, now you can see there's just that fine little panel line right there, that nice little gap, part went exactly where it was supposed to go. And then I do end up having to remove it, I believe, to get both of them together. And when I did that, it was squish it in, and all this other stuff. It was a horrible nightmare. Well, I shouldn't say horrible nightmare. That's actually what's coming up. And this is the part here that hurt me the most, was putting these on, because that just boxed everything in. The fitment issues, I had to trim and put the vents on different angles to get them in, and all this other crazy stuff, and the fenders wouldn't fit where they were supposed to go. It was, I don't know if you've seen it there, but there was actually, if you put it in the correct spot, it stuck out like a millimeter off to the side. So I had to trim stuff both on the hull and the fender just to get it to fit in there properly. And then, as I said, with me not putting the vents in first, oh yeah, this just absolutely compounded everything and made it so much worse. It was I bet you I probably had somewhere close to an hour and 15 minutes wrestling with getting all this together. As you see here, I'm lining the sides of the fenders up so they're straight and all that, making sure they get glued right, Yeah, that was just how bad the fitment issues were. Now, if you notice there, right there where I just glued, that was off. So if you put the fender where it was supposed to be, when you glued it in, the fender was way off. I had to scoot it over, which made the vents way off. And so, yeah, I had so much I had to modify the vents and stuff to fit in there just so much that it was literally just mind-boggling how, it went in there. Now, if I had left the fenders off, I probably could have just slid those into place where they were supposed to go, and things probably would have been a little bit easier, because then I would have just had to move the fenders, or whatever. But it was a pain in the butt. So I'll throw on a couple more songs while you guys watch me completely just, yeah, have issues with this. But just know they do finally get in and look pretty good now. Besides the big holes behind them that you can see through. But other than that, yeah. So let's get to that music. this point, I've had it so much that I stop for the night. I'm done. I'm just, yeah, I'm literally wanting to smash this kit. Luckily, I come in next morning and I'm able to get them in there, and now it's time for the running gear. Let me tell you about this running gear. Oh my God. So much detail. It's beautiful, but I was not ready for it. Those pieces that I'm gluing on now that hold the springs, if you look on the bottom of the hull on the opposite side where they would be, where I'm gluing them at, you'll see two little indents, and there's bolt heads there, and each one of those is separate, so you got to cut them off and hope like hell that when you cut them off they don't fly off to Narnia like some of mine did, because they will go for a ride and you will never find them again because they're so small. But yes, great detail, love it, and I'm really questioning my life choices right now with this because of all the issues I've had up to this point. But this is a refreshing part here because as I'm doing this, nothing goes wrong. Not with this part. There is one big, huge last mistake, but I'll save that for later. There's this, and then if you notice the little springs over there off to the left of my hand, there are like 4 or 5 or 6 separate pieces. There's the spring, then there's the little cap that goes on the end, then there's a little side plate and another little side plate, and then the thing that's between the springs and those little rings up there, which are actually tires for the wheels, those get glued onto them, onto the springs for the other wheel peg. So there's so many pieces that go into just the suspension on this thing. It's great, but as I said, with the issues and stuff like that, I was just waiting for the next thing to go wrong, and I'm already pre-planning in my head, how am I going to be able to explain this when I stop this build because of the issues, you know? Now, I did have a big issue up front with the drive sprocket covers. There's 2 sets in the kit, and I swear I used the ones that it said to use, but they were wrong. And I didn't find this out until after I started putting together the tracks and stuff and went to test fit everything, and I actually had to rip them off and put the other set on. But that was really the last biggest issue besides the tracks themselves, which I had already figured out. So I was able to get that switched out. So when you're building this kit, test, because the ones that I used actually set the thing for the drive sprocket close to the road wheels, and it's actually supposed to be closer to the front of the tank. You'll see it in the pictures here, or in just a second. While I'm waiting for everything to dry here, I put the turret together. This is kind of neat, but kind of weird. In the instructions it says, be careful bending this when you put this part on, because you have to bend it, not to break it. I finally, that's not working, so I roll it around and get it bent and get it on there. But later on, when I'm working on the tracks and stuff, I actually found the pre-molded piece that was already bent to go on there. So, yeah. Make sure you use the right drive sprocket covers, and there is a molded piece for this. But I'm going to go ahead and throw on one more song real quick, and then we will get this all knocked out and out of the way, guys. Okay, we're back, guys. Right here, I'm looking and I'm just thinking to myself how I'm going to fix these fitment issues with the big gaps and stuff. The bottom of the turret there, I'm not really worried about because you're never going to see it. I have no intentions on ever taking the turret off so somebody can look up underneath there to see that there's a huge gap around that. But the rest of them, I'm still trying to figure out. You got the gaps there on the sides, on the bottom. So I figure, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and put the tracks together. And since I had issues with the original tracks, I 3D printed some. Again, if you guys didn't watch my previous video, the update video on this, I 3D printed these tracks. Absolutely gorgeous. Worked great. Here's the issue I had. The original tracks snap together like that, and they actually hold themselves, and they're workable tracks. Or supposed to be. But 95% of the tracks had flash in all the wrong spots. And if you look back there behind the plate, you'll see, and I said it before, they're molded flat. So if you look here, this flash is actually going opposite of the mold line. And it's covering the little indents where the little pins on the front of the track piece go in. So you can't really sand it down because it's filled in. There's no dimple there for that pin to fit in. So you either got to nip off all that or, whatever. Now, I tried my damnedest to use those, but as you can see here, all cattywampus looks, honestly, they look like shit. So, yeah. I got the 3D printed ones. I had to add a little bitty spacer in there. I think it was like 1 millimeter wide, and to get these tracks to work. These are type 2 tracks, and the ones that are in the kit are type 1. They are the same size, same width, same everything, except for where the teeth on the sprocket go. The original track, it's bigger, so that's why the sprocket wheel, or the two pieces of the sprocket drive there, had to be widened because the holes on the new tracks on the Type 2 or on the Type 2 tracks were smaller. But other than that, they're the exact same size, and they went together great. I just used some wire, got it together, and somebody else had mentioned this, but I think I did have to add 1 or 2 extra links to get the droop. Other than that, it was just going to be really super tight, and I wanted to have a little bit of that droop down for it. So I added a couple extra to it, just for shits and giggles. But I'm not going to lie, I found these tracks. I got them for this, and I got them for something else. I can't remember. But they work absolutely beautiful. And the reason why I used the wire was each track link had 2 pins. And there's 98 on each side. So I'm not doing like 400 little pins. No. Single shot all the way through with the wire. Good to go. So, as always, guys, if you like this sort of stuff, please don't be afraid. Drop a like and a comment down below. Let me know. If you haven't already, consider subscribing. This helps the channel grow, and it's free, except for the notification when I post new videos. Discord, link in the description below. Join up. We have some absolutely awesome builders in there. You should come check out their stuff. Can't stress it enough. It's also free. So enjoy the glamour shots here. And until the next video, guys, I will see you later. Bye-bye.